story that Anna, we would all love to hear about. So can you tell us more about Perx Technologies?
Thank you, Camille. Perx is a category-creating lifestyle marketing SaaS platform, and we service mostly the large brands like telcos, banks, the high-growth fintechs, and digital natives as well. What we have done is to enable these brands to monetize on customer actions in the mobile-first economy. So we're really gamifying the entire user journey from start to finish, from acquisition to engagement to managing churn and retention. So a lot of it is incentivizing in the instant gratification economy, and how do we delight customers and build better relationships rather than these brands continuously become transient and transactional brands. So we're an engagement platform based on gamification and game design theories.
That's really cool. So we understood that your approach was a little different from the traditional approach that normal B2B SaaS companies take. So normally what happens is, companies develop their product, they either just target enterprise or they go from SMB to enterprise. But yours was a very different approach, right? So that was actually a very bold move too. What was the reason behind it?
This is sometimes it keeps me up at night thinking about, why did we go this route, going from enterprise downstream to SMB versus the other way around, which is the conventional method. And there's so many success stories on how traditional SaaS companies have started out in the SME space. For us, we decided to embark on a very, very uncrowded white space. And when, it was a personal journey of mine. And I think most companies are founded on, how do we solve our own problems and our own pain points. And one of the stories I tell is that I was with this telco for 7 years, and I gave them a lifetime value of my membership, of my relationship and loyalty of probably $80,000 to $100,000 worth of business. And, I later on switched over to another telco after moving away from a multinational company. But, from that journey, I didn't even know that they had a loyalty program. And when my assistant was doing my expenses one day, she said, "Your points are going to expire soon." And I said, "Why is it going to expire? I didn't even know what's expiring. There's a rewards program that they have." And I got so upset that I decided to, forget it. Just why don't you convert the points over to vouchers, and why don't you spend it as a gift from me? And then when I left them, they actually sent me an email to ask me to fill out a survey why I left. After 7 years, right? So traditional brands are not known to proactively engage customers and build a relationship. We only, go to them when a negative experience occurs. So I wanted to fix that. And then fixing it was one of the, more naive goals, but aspirational goals. And then we started to branch out to banking and so forth, because these are some of the biggest brands that have failed at engaging customers more proactively outside of just an SMS or email to tell you that your bill's delayed or you need to recontract and so forth. So we, that was our journey. I wanted to fix the large brands' way of engaging their customers. And then now we're seeing a lot of high growth companies. And with COVID, that, you don't have the luxury of building it in-house anymore. And so a lot of brands come to us, digital natives, fintechs have started to reach out. They have acquired hundreds of thousands or millions of customers, and only 10 or 15% of those acquired customers are engaging with their brand or being monetized. And so investors and shareholders are asking, why is the bulk of your CAC gone to waste? And why are you not monetizing on the rest of your customers? So there is a monetization challenge right now in the ecosystem. Even standing a super app or having a directory of multiple services and brands onto one unified approach does not really make sense to a lot of these brands. They have to figure out how to monetize on the ecosystem. So we're helping these guys go way beyond just email and SMS. So it's been a journey.
That's awesome, actually. And next is actually $1 million questions most founders would like to learn from you, which is how did you go about acquiring your first set of enterprise customers?
I think it doesn't stop with just the first set. And I had a huddle with my team recently to discuss how we can actually drive a vision and storytelling and excite and inspire our customers and the ecosystem. The first 10 customers it does not make a difference from the other, 100 or whatever customers. Your team has to be able to tell a great story and share the vision of the founders. And I sold my first 10 customers with no platform, no technology. Actually, it was highly buggy, highly unscalable. And it was selling a vision, and they brought into the vision. And so that was when you find product market fit, it's because the concept is coming to life, and now you're putting it into production, and it's actually solving real life problems. And that has to solve real life problems at scale and in high performing manner. So over the course of the last 2-3 years, we've been able to actually stabilize the platform to be made and tuned for scale. So we're now in 8 countries and 8 markets, and we're looking to expand further than that.
That's really cool. I mean, I love the part when you said you didn't sell the product, but you sold the vision. And that's the essence of every product out there, right?
Exactly.
Right. And speaking of selling to enterprise companies, the sales cycle, everyone knows that in enterprise sales, it's much more longer. It might even take a few quarters to close a deal. Right? Was that risk something that you were willing to take?
Yes, and even investors, compared to Western investors from Asian investors are much more conservative. Most of them have never operated a business before, so they don't even know what the sales cycle looks like. Why is the sales cycle so long, 9 to 12 months, or sometimes even longer if you're doing a large, high 6-figure, 7-figure deal? And, a lot of times you just have to educate. But in the US, most of the investors know what that looks like if you're dealing with the enterprise space and selling to the global 2,000s or 10,000 brands. We have to just, build awareness and manage expectations, because when I first went in, there was a combination of, land and expand. So enterprise is quite often the land and expand story. But we wanted to go bold. We want to go big. We want to just land and land big. So then it's that stretch that entire sales cycle a little bit longer, sometimes 6-9 months, and even longer. Recently, we just signed a deal with the largest bank in Asia, and it took us about 18 months to 2 years to close this 5-year deal. But we beat some global companies, and so the fact is, when you manage sales cycles, you have to have a few really high value customers and a lot of small value, big volume. But when we started, we were only focusing on high value, low volume business. Right, we're not here doing the B2C SaaS businesses or the SME business. So we only were able to acquire a number of really high value logos and high value brands. And that set the tone, because once you have these tier 1 brands, then everyone wants to come in.
That's very true. I'm just taking a break over here. To the audience, hey all, the chat is open. So if you have any questions for Anna, just put it on the Q&A section, or if you would like to say something, put it on chat. We'll be very happy to help you with the answers. Right. So Anna, coming back to the questions. The next question that every founder would look for, or the next answer that every founder would look for, is how different was the sales cycle between an enterprise customer and an SME customer? Like, what was the top 3 or top 5 differentiators that you would say that a founder has to look for or take care of to make sure that things are successful?
In my last 20 plus years of deep tech enterprise software, experience, this has never changed, by the way. It's the mentality of build versus buy. So it's not about, any sweet sauce, whatever, but our biggest competitor is not the other technology provider is literally the internal mindsets. How do you get away from, building it from within and then not partnering smartly? And, the pride and egos of traditional CIO's office or traditional business owners. So this is what we're up against. And then you have also in the digital economy where a lot of these big, consulting tier one firms will come in and block and tackle the startups from coming in because they want to develop everything in-house for these big brands. And so they actually feed a lot of, FUD or fear, uncertainty, and doubt into their heads while we're trying to also feed, some of these FUD to the customers. So, throughout the journey, the biggest challenge has been, figuring out how to convince these big players or even high growth startups or super apps that building is no longer the right way to do it. But it never stopped. It started out in the .com days when I, had 3 or 4 other startup experiences. It's always the same challenge. It's always going up against mentality and mindset and legacy leadership mindset. That's cool.
Oh yeah, that's very true actually, the mentality portion more than it being dependent on the tool. And as a continuation to that conversation, let's say a founder wants to actually walk down the same steps as you. Let's say they are targeting enterprise and now they are taking their baby steps into the SME market. So what would your advice be? Where would you if you were in their shoes, you've already been in their shoes, where would you start?
If they were to embark on the SaaS journey, is that what you're asking?
If they were already in the enterprise B2B market, and they are just getting into the SME B2B market, what would your advice be to you?
I think that's actually much easier because, when you have a very sophisticated, robust enterprise platform, and it's made to be deep functionality. It's made to be, solving very complex problems. Now we can actually disable a lot of the features and functions to offer it downstream. I think when you're solving SME problems, it's primarily a few features, a few functional real life problems, and then you can do it at scale and you can do it in volumes. And so currently, we're toying with both. I don't think there's a right or wrong way. It's just a matter of the problems that you're really passionate about solving. But now we're seeing high growth e-commerce, fintechs, digital natives, marketplaces, really looking at how to fast track their growth without having to build everything themselves. And, some people are saying that what they want to build a CRM themselves. They want to build marketing cloud themselves because it's too expensive. But you're a fintech, do fintech well, so stop trying to be a marketing solution. And so I think a lot of times it's just, think of a way, if you're really passionate, own your space and focus on your space and do it so well. And then when you deviate from it, when you go horizontal or different verticals, that you are actually made to scale. If you don't do it well in the space that you start in, or when you pivot it to the other space and now you're, right coursing your business model or your platform usage patterns and behavior and models, you cannot do it at scale. So you have to do one vertical or one space really, really well before you embark on the horizontal market.
That's really cool. And what have been your top 3 or top 5 learnings in your 20 years of experience of venturing from enterprise into SME? When I first that question, actually, so what would you do differently if you had to repeat the process all over again? Were there any mistakes that you would have avoided if you can do the same process now?
I think fundamentally, it's not really even the process in itself. It's most startups have made many mistakes in hiring. And talent acquisition is one of our biggest pain points. And I think hiring the right people, having the right talent in place from the very beginning of the journey to the end is very, very crucial to the growth of the business and sustainability of the business. I made a lot of hiring mistakes in the first few years. I had a couple of CTOs, I had a couple of head of sales, and they could have had or they had the right culture fit, or they didn't have the right culture fit but had the great technical skills. But there was mismatch in one way or another, and the dynamics was just so off, and it became quite unsustainable to keep these talents in place. So I admit that all the time, when we go through a certain stage of the company, we will continue to make a lot of hiring mistakes, and that's the Achilles heel to a lot of founders or SaaS startup founders to be broader, and we are looking for ways to improve that and to put the culture and the core values intact so that it doesn't get deviated. And just recently, you see a lot of founders coming out to talk about their going back to the basics, going back to the core values and principles like Basecamp, Spotify. I mean, recently there's a lot of talk and chatter around the founders stepping back up to maintain the core of the business and not let a few folks actually drive the direction elsewhere. And so it's difficult. So you have to really not deviate from the business and core values and principles of the business.
Right. And along with the core values and basic principles of a company, the company culture is something that's very raw, that if you leave, if you let it go out of hand, it's going to come back and stab you in the back.
Yeah.
Right. So, the next question that I have for you is something that's a little bit product related, but also something that most founders are still trying to figure out, is the pricing model. Right. So you have handled both markets with the same product, and both have had their own approach. It has their own plus and minus. So were there any changes in the pricing models made, or how did you approach it?
Yes, so as a startup, we have to be nimble and agile about changing our price model. I came from San Francisco, and from North America is always a global pricing, and you never actually deviate from that. And every market, especially the Asia market, when I was leading some of the big businesses here, we could not convince headquarters to actually localize the pricing model until we, saw that, these customers are going to our competitors. You have to localize your business and your business models and pricing models. We actually charge by MAU. Similar to other SaaS companies that sell to B2B by users. But, we have a tier volume pricing model. As you scale, because we're focusing on consumers, and as you scale from hundreds of thousands to millions of MAU, it gets, cheaper by user per year. And so that helps the growth, and it's in partnership with our customers. But we're now seeing an evolution of customers wanting to look at how do we work with you in a partnership. So that means how do we, do a pay by performance and rev share. So if you can see the efficacy of our business growing and we're making X ROI, I want to share that with you. And so how do you design a pricing model around rev share? And that actually threw me, a curveball. And I had to quickly mobilize my team to figure out how that can be done. And we did it. So there's a couple of customers that we're actually now betaing this new business model. And then there's another model where, because your platform is made to be so modular and, plug and play, you want to make sure that you design the pricing model to fit the usage patterns and behavior of your customers. And so a lot of times we are just stuck to selling a platform and, just eat this entire platform and all in one go. But we want to piecemeal it, and so that it's affordable for them to adopt at the most basic level, not just at the smallest MAU level. There's another pricing model and business model that we're seeing a trend is most of the enterprises not only become our customers, but now they're becoming our OEM go-to-market partners. So that's the best and the holy grail, which I have not seen many of that happening in my career. But currently in this space and with Perx, we're seeing some of our enterprise clients actually forming digital teams to actually resell or OEM Perx and selling into their corporate clients and their SMEs and their ecosystem, and trying to make a full value of the turnkey solution that they're also offering to their corporate clients. So we're seeing an evolution, and you just have to be highly flexible. Because as you go into different markets, the appetite's different, the usage is different. We're made to, support over 100 languages out of the box, so it's designed for global usage.
Right, totally on point. And I have a continuation question for you, which is, did you also take a different approach for the product roadmap and the way you structured your features? Because these are like two markets that are seas apart. So I would like to know more about it.
Yeah, so because our enterprise platform is made in such a complex manner, it's made for it to solve complex problems. SMEs are very basic, but the use cases are actually very similar. So when they use us, we actually made it simple to design journeys so that they can adopt and quickly get up and running. We have multi-billion-dollar, organizations using us in the most basic ways, and then we have SMEs actually using us in the most complex ways. So we're now, looking at solving consumer problems can be very, very different, because we always thought we designed deep and richer functionalities for the enterprise, and then smaller at the smaller scale companies, and easier and simpler for this. But now it's actually flip-flopped. We're seeing the enterprises having, they don't have enough talent pool also and digital assets to really use the platform at scale at the moment. So they take bite sizes in different phases. But they also have a roadmap that is so robust and so much more complex than the startups. But the startups sometimes are using us in the most complex way and more creative way. And so the dichotomy is changing. I think there's no right way to solve either problems, because I think we're in the creative economy now. Because, if I give you a platform to exercise your entire creative and imagination to engage your customers, how would you do it? And that's the whole concept of, how different we are. It's almost like I give you Instagram and then you become an influencer. How you influence the audience is up to you. And this is the concept that we're providing.
That's nice. That's really cool. Plus one on the creativity portion, actually. I was part of a customer success team before, and the most unique use cases actually came from companies that we do not even expect that would use the product in such a different and in-depth way.
Yeah, exactly.
So my next and last question for you, after which we can move on to the QA, is what advice do you would you like to give to GTM teams in specific for companies that would like to take this approach, the approach of going from enterprise to SME?
Well, first of all, it's not even that the size of the companies. It's really the experience of the team. Have you ever sold to enterprise, first and foremost? And do you know how to even design a product to go after the SMEs, which is product-led or sales-led? If it's product-led, then you don't have to build a very big sales organization, and maybe even think about building a very robust digital marketing team, right? On SEO, SEM, and ABM tactics, and all the different drip marketing campaigns, because product-led organizations actually have a much bigger marketing budget and a marketing team. And so, are you a product-led company or a sales-led company in the beginning? And a lot of times I see enterprise software companies are primarily sales-led, because you're trying to sell the vision and do all of that, and then you're finding all these use cases to bolt on, and then you co-create, co-build together. And so that's where the enterprise solutions come in, and that's why a lot of the enterprise solutions were services-led, unfortunately. But we started out with platform, and we had to do it properly. So you have to also own a vertical. What could you do really, really well within a couple of verticals or industries that you own? When we first started, 5 years ago, I was hell bent on not going after aviation and hospitality. And we continue not to focus on that industry, on those industries, because those industries were not highly disrupted, and there's no urgency to transform, because they're going to constantly get bailed out. There's no technology, or Elon Musk is not going to create a flying saucer right away to compete with airlines. So I said, there's no way that we will, go after these aviation sector, which is so complacent. Hospitality, Airbnb is not out here and disrupting in the most prolific ways. And so no one is actually disrupting the hospitality business. So we're going after banking, telcos, the insurers, and other traditional and the retail essentials like grocery, because they're all trying to transform urgently because there's so much disruption in that space. And so we were very focused only on a few key markets and a few key verticals. And now we're actually expanding cross-functional and horizontally down market to different industries. And so it's made to scale that way.
That's awesome. We would love to see us expanding more and more in the market.
Thank you.
Right. So moving on to the Q&As, Anna. I guess the first question is, in a crowded market like loyalty, where web providers are repositioned to be mobile as well, how do your product position yourself and stand out?
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry. It was...
Yeah. Right. So in a crowded market like loyalty, where Web 2.0 providers reposition to be mobile as well, how do you product position yourself to stand out? That's one of the questions.
Okay. I love that question, by the way. Loyalty systems are no more than just a glorified ERP or CRM that is crunching numbers. So it's just a ledger that's so static that does not engage in customers. So if you want a number cruncher, a glorified spreadsheet on the back end, fantastic. Do that. We can coexist. We're not here to actually dominate or own the loyalty space. Loyalty is actually the end state. If you engage with your customers, if you delight them, if you actually instantly gratify them, make it interactive, make it social, make it challenging for them to perform certain actions for those brands, and then delight them along the way. That's what we're actually looking at. And we're enabling brands to actually create outside of their core and innovate outside of core. If they build high value partnerships, now they can cross-sell and upsell their users to these different, I would say, business models. And so we are moving further and further away from loyalty and rewards programs because they are so low value and they don't bring much ROI. They actually are high liability and expensive for organizations to stand up, and they're static. It's unengaging. So we're moving more to data in motion and not data at rest. So we're not interested in dealing with CRM or historical data, loyalty ledger. We can actually coexist and bring relevance to these traditional players. Hope that answered that question.
Yeah. So the next question that we have is, was there any secret to enterprise marketing? Were there any unconventional marketing efforts that you took to grab the attention of these enterprise customers?
Oh yeah, there were quite a few, but a lot of times it's really having a great ABM strategy, account-based marketing. How are you targeting specific personas? We are a MarTech company, marketing solution, but we realized in the last few months when we did a poll on all of the users that are tapping into our platform, not one is a marketer. WTF, right? So, why? We're a marketing company. We're creating a MarTech solution designed to supposedly to enable marketers to, campaign and drive creative engagements with their customers. But the dynamics has shifted, and I'll tell you why. That actually surprised my entire team as well when we actually went back to the drawing table and we're like, wow, so then who is really using our platform? Who's design? Where's the P&L coming from? Is it from marketing budget? Is it from IT budget? What budget is it coming from? Because they're just buying our solution. It's great, but not one marketer is using our platform. the people who are using our platform are the product folks, the platform folks of the digital arm of these traditional brands, as well as the, I would say, digital marketing / product. So there is an evolution of these guys who are mobile first. So the mobile team is actually using our platform, but they're not part of the marketing team. They're part of a business unit that's attached to a P&L. And so, or consumer banking or a new division, or it rolls up to the COO or CCO. And so we realize that actually the new products folks and platform owners are using our platform. So it's an interesting insight that we're selling a marketing solution, and these teams are actually using us. And we're going to continuously actually share this online and social media. So hopefully you guys can follow us. We're actually, there's a paradigm shift now in the mobile economy, and the traditional marketers are still focusing on communication, brand building, and managing agencies and digital marketing partners, but they're really not in the forefront of mobility. And so that's a big shift for us to learn.
Oh, that's really nice. When you said your majority of users are not marketers, but you're selling a martech solution, okay, I don't think anyone expected that.
Right.
But that's a really interesting perspective, though. I think those are the questions that we have had for today. So thank you, Anna. Thank you for being a part of this. To those who have tuned in to Anna's session, Anna is the founder and CEO of Perx Technologies. If you have any questions about how, if you're a founder and if you have any questions, or if you're a marketer, doesn't matter, just tweet it to Anna, tagging SaaS Insider, and that'll be great. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It was fun. All the best, everyone. Stay safe.